2025 is a big year for Big Finish. We've got the Ninth Doctor and Rose, a TARDIS team we could only have dreamed appearing on Big Finish. The 13th Doctor and Yaz, but we can't talk about those releases because that's the
Yeah.
second half of the year. We're here to talk about the first half of the year, which is still equally as exciting. We had a 12-part epic with the Fifth Doctor, the genesis of the Cybermen, the Fugitive Doctor debut, Sacha Dhawan's debut on Big Finish, and a return to sort of the classic Big Finish spin-offs, putting a monster on the center stage and wrapping a whole spin-off around it. So we're here to talk about our top 5 releases of the year so far.
We are indeed. And it's been an interesting one this year, I think. I mean, it's become a cliche to say, where have the days gone? How are we already halfway
Yeah.
through the year? But I'll say it anyway. How are we already halfway through the year? Big Finish
Wow.
Day's been and gone.
Mm.
What an experience that was. I mean, if I could put that as my number one Big Finish experience of the year, I
Yeah, easy.
would. But
Yeah.
we're not quite talking about that. We're instead talking about the top 5 audio dramas that we've listened to, top 5 releases. So, we'll stick to those. And should we just dive right in with, do you want to go for your number 5?
Yes, my number 5 was the first release of the year, which was an audio novel, Lord of Misrule, which is a season 16 story with the Fourth Doctor, Romana 1, and Jago and Lightfoot. This is sort of, in a way, kind of like a middle story in a trilogy, with the Fourth Doctor and Jago and Lightfoot sort of stories. What we have just of Jelxar, then you have Lord of Misrule, and then you have the Beast of Kravanos. This all fits in with the Big Finish's unique continuity there. But this just came out at the right time, with it sort of being this nice sort of wintry tale, set
Yeah.
in sort of 2 time zones, sort of the sort of turn of the century in sort of the 1900s. And then, of course, we have the 1700s, I think, within it.
Yeah, 1700s going into the 1800s.
Yes. So turning into another type of century there, which is really sort of exciting to sort of have a new sort of aspect of characters that we don't really get to see in Big Finish anymore. So it was really nice to
Yeah.
sort of tap into that and this sort of nice
Making
sort of,
use of the audio novel format, really,
yes.
by touching those characters who are now less touched upon in full cast audio drama.
Yeah. And it was just nice to have the sort of another little bit of season 16 goodness and Jago and Lightfoot as well was an utter joy. And I think sort of basing the story around this sort of medieval tradition of Lord of Misrule, which is sort of the in-between sort of time of Christmas and New Year, where revelry happens, and sort of basing the story around that was really exciting. And this whole sort of tradition being brought back to life and why it shouldn't be a part of it, I thought was really quite neat and
Hmm.
exciting.
Yeah, it's a nice little comment on nostalgia as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
How
which is a
things all weren't always as good as you thought they were in the good old days. There's always a romanticism about the past, but oftentimes the same or similar issues will repeat themselves over and over again in the present.
which is set up quite nicely with Lightfoot at the beginning because he's sort of
Mm.
a turn of a century, sort of figuring out where his place is because it's sort of the embers of sort of the Victorian era now, and it's like where do they fit into that this new century, which is quite
Yeah,
interesting sort of theme to play throughout the whole story.
yeah, I really enjoyed that. I will say this one hasn't made my list, but
Hmm.
I'm going to give it an honorable mention status because it was between this and my 5 other choices, which you'll find out about as the video goes on.
Mm.
And I had to sacrifice one, sadly. There can only be 5. And so Lord of Misrule got bumped down to 6th place.
Okay.
Where, I mean, my 5th choice, though, was a War Doctor story. This was
Oh.
Fallen Heroes. Now, it sort of pains me to put this one at number 5 because Jonathan Carley is still absolutely credible as the War Doctor. This release does something very different with the Time War and the War Doctor in general. It's an on 3 hour long story in the same vein as the previous War Doctor Rises releases, Morbius the Mighty and Unknown Soldiers. And I think it goes in such an interesting direction with, all these weird, different kind of realities in play. You don't know what's going on, who's who at times. You have Jonathan Carley playing the War Doctor slash Agent Wyatt Smith, and there's this question of, is he really the Doctor? Is he someone else? What's going on here? It's this murder mystery, somewhat David Lynch-esque in tone, and yeah, it's just a wonderful little story, really, that does something so different with the Time War and really pushes the War Doctor into some interesting places. It's written by Alfie Shaw. The whole thing is by Alfie Shaw, who worked wonders on the 11th Doctor Chronicles. And so hearing him here go into the Time War and not use the Daleks is so interesting. And I think he's come up with something quite neat with this one. I do feel like the resolution is a bit messy. It's not my favourite of the War Doctor Rises range, but I still think it continues the strong trend that this range has had going for it so far. And I hope continues because these 3 hour epics really do provide something special. And I think it's where the Time War has worked best at Big Finish.
Yeah, and what I like about this is sort of it's in the sandbox of like 70s Doctor Who with like all these little Easter eggs like the Benton Hotel and
Yeah,
Bessie being involved in like a drive-by shooting. And I think the theme of like identity is such a big thing for like the War Doctor's character, and bringing that in this
yeah,
story and bringing that to the forefront was really quite interesting, you know.
yeah, agreed. And my number four choice is with, no, not with the Angels. Well, kind of with the Angels. It's Past Forward, which features with the Angels
Oh,
alongside Catastrophics. I really enjoyed the Seventh Doctor adventure. I think it's such a neat little way to end one era and start another by saying goodbye to Harry and Naomi, who have had a very strong run with the Seventh Doctor. I think,
yeah, easy. Some of the best Seventh
yeah,
Doctor stuff in recent years.
yeah, and I think it's the best Harry and Naomi stuff as well. I think they really work well as a trio. It's bittersweet because, on the one hand, we're saying goodbye to Harry and Naomi, who have been wonderful with the Seventh Doctor. But at the same time, we're saying hello to Ray again from Delta and the Bannerman, who we already got a tease of in Classic Doctor and New Monsters at the start of the year. But here we're finding out how she rejoins the Seventh Doctor. And it's wonderful hearing, where she's been, because it's been a 20-year gap for her. It's now the late 70s, and she's working with these disenfranchised youths, really, on this like adventure farm of sorts. And I think that is such a wonderful place for her character to end up. And yeah, it's nice how they deal with the Seventh Doctor and Ray reuniting in this story. I think, you know, all the scenes involving them and Sarah Griffiths are just magical. And it's also such a neat take on the Weeping Angels as well.
Mm.
I won't spoil quite what that is, but if you give it a listen, you'll be impressed, I think. It does something different with them that really is rather cool. And it's an interesting structure as well, this set. I like how it plays about that because you've got this four-parter enveloping a two-parter in the middle that's still distinct and
Mhm.
sort of comes before the story and sort of comes after the story at the same time and sort of comes in between the story, depending on which character's perspectives you're following or which character goes through what in what order. But at the same time, it's not as complex as I'm making it sound. It all works perfectly in the set.
Mm.
It's timey-wimey, but not in a, oh, look how clever I am sort of way. It just is clever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really did enjoy this one. And so it's wonderful having Seventh Doctor that I really like because I love his Doctor, but there are times recently, the last day, where he's not had the best material, so it's good to have him on fine form again. And it's been a good year for him, actually.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Friends has a
Very
couple
strong
of
year.
pops. It's another good entry, which we'll probably get to. We'll see.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about that one. I think just looking at the things we've got from this year so
Yeah.
far.
Is it your number four, or is something else your number four?
Um, I can talk about my number four,
Go for
which is Planet Kronoid, Nightfall. This was very much sort of marketed as Doctor Who meets The Last of Us, and yeah, it very much has that sort of zombie apocalypse vibe to it, and I really like that it's going for the early Big Finish spin-off, which that might sound like a bit of a negative, but
it.
it's going for something like 20 years ago, like Dalek Empire and Cyberman. But there's a sort of grit and sort of um, ambition and experimental nature to those sort of spin-offs, and I think that this captures it. This is one story told by three different writers, and it's just incredible having the Doctor there, who is just normally a character who is a beacon of hope, who will save you. He makes things worse for this sort of colony world, which is surprising because you think he's give them a solution, but he makes it 10 times worse. And when you get to episode 3, and there's this chilling scene in a playground involving a Kronoid pod, and it is so gruesome with the sound design. It is very tense, and the atmosphere is just insane. And it's one of the best big finishes I've listened to in a long time. It is just phenomenal bit of audio. The sound design, it's just superb, superb work, and yeah, very interesting themes explored throughout it. Really, so that's my number four.
Yeah, that one has the this release may not be suitable for younger listeners,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Which it's surprising when you see on the Doctor Who release. You know, usually
Mm.
have to preserve the Torchwood. So does it live up to that?
I mean, when you start listening to it, you think, oh, it's just being edgy for the sake of it. But like I say, when you get to part 3 with
Uh,
that moment, you're like, oh, it's totally earned it. It's totally earned that bit of why
uh,
it's not suitable for younger listeners. So yeah, if you want a little bit of darkness, because I don't want my Doctor Who to be like that all the time. I think that's why it stands out because it's a rare occasion. So yeah, I really like that a lot.
yeah. Is your number three choice just as dark, or is it something a bit more light and fun?
Well, it's Hook Light.
It is
So
light.
it is light,
It's very blinding light.
very blinding light, but an evil light at the same time. This is the Fifth Doctor 12-part epic.
Yeah, I mean, it's technically two releases, but we've both done the same thing here. I won't say exactly where it's going to come on my list just yet, but
Okay.
uh, yeah, we've both done the same thing here and put two releases together into one because it's a 12-parter.
It's a
You're not
story.
going to be buying just one of these, are you?
No, no, no,
Hmm.
no. This is Doctor Who does fantasy in the best way possible. This is Doctor Who meets Lord of the Rings. This is the Fifth Doctor in season 19 TARDIS crew bringing on this massive quest, and I think it's very much like Lord of the Rings with these different ages, a bit like the Similarian. And yeah, it's just such an epic story, isn't it? You've got these twists and turns. You've got the Eighth Doctor turning up within it, which I think it's not going for the typical thing of recreating an era. And I admire Tim Foley for going, this is something completely different. Let's do it. And I think it's
Yeah,
fascinating having the Eighth Doctor there because the Fifth Doctor and Eighth Doctor, you don't really see them sort of paired up all that much. I think it's an interesting thing to see them be paired up within this story, really.
yeah. It's very much still a Fifth Doctor story, though.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not a multi-Doctor story as such. It's a Fifth Doctor story with the Eighth Doctor popping in occasionally to nudge things along. And I think what works neat there is that, you know, at Big Finish, we're always looking back, technically, when it comes to these Doctors. We have hindsight here. We know where Adric ends up. We know what happens to all these characters, and it's wonderful how the inclusion of the Eighth Doctor there adds a lens
Mm,
that the audience knows where these characters end up, and now a character within this story, Eighth Doctor, knows where all these characters end up, and he's looking back at his younger self here, where he's in the midst of the Time War. Things are getting very dark for him, and he's wanting to preserve the Fifth Doctor's innocence in many ways,
mm,
particularly this early Fifth Doctor before he loses that trick. There's that neat nostalgia there from the Doctor himself, which is also reflected in us as the listener listening to this, almost crystallizing the past in a way. And that's
mm.
a neat little message which is carried throughout this story. And if you're wondering, how does it sustain 12 parts? It just does through some
Does.
incredible world building, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, you just don't want it to end. You just think, how can it wrap up in 3 hours? Like it
Yeah.
just does wonderfully. Everything's put back in the sandbox.
Yeah, everything and then some in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful how part one very much sprawls out. You've got things going all over the place, leading to a big cliffhanger, of course. And then everything starts to come back together again across part two. All the different narrative paths are converging, things are getting wrapped up, and it's quite satisfying in that way. I do feel like part one is the better of the two
Yeah.
because of just that sense of scale. I think as everything is sprawling out, there's something that doesn't quite compare to that, particularly on the first listen. But part two does bring everything together really neatly at the same time. It's interestingly structured, and yeah, I just had such a good time in it, such a good time in the world, in the realm of Morn.
Yes. That's
Everything that
it.
Tim Foley's set up there, I think, really, you know, lends itself to a story like this. This isn't something you could tell across 4 or even 6 parts. I think it's something that very much earns itself that 12-part status. It is an epic.
And I feel like it's a story only for the Fifth Doctor as well.
Mm.
Like I feel like you can't interchange other Doctors and that you'll get the same result. I think it is very much for the Fifth Doctor and his TARDIS team.
Yeah, very much agree with that. Would you like to hear my number 3 spot?
I would love to.
I feel like this is one that's going to be on your list as well somewhere.
Yeah, yeah,
It is Faithful Friends,
yeah.
Classic Doctors, New Monsters. From January of this year, you've got the second Doctor, Jamie and Zoe, against the Quillitanes.
Hmm.
You've got fourth Doctor, Leela and K9 against the Lupari. Seventh Doctor, and as we mentioned before, Ray against the Quillitanes. And then the Eighth Doctor against the monks from the Capaldi era, not the meddling monks in their different
No.
guises. No, these are the more corpse-like monks.
Yes.
I think this is just banger after banger, really. I really had a good time with this set. I think particularly the seventh and second Doctor stories, the Krillitane ones, they're separate stories, but they link together quite neatly as well. One's a sequel to the other, pretty much. And I think there's that wonderful blend of classic and new in there. With Base Under Siege meets that new series twist on it, that new series pacing. I think it's what Classic Doctor's New Monsters does best, and that is very much distilled in those two stories. Then in the other two, you have things going off in slightly different, more experimental directions, which I definitely respect as well. And I know one of them, The Dying Breed, worked better for you than it did for me.
Yeah, yeah.
But I still enjoyed every story in this set.
Yeah. What a set. I mean, I might be a little bit cheeky since we're talking about it now. That's my number 2.
Go for it.
My number 2.
There we go.
This is, like you say, just I think because it was announced quite late, and then we like November. and then it came out January, so I think the excitement was there for this set.
Yeah.
And like you say, it was just such a fun set, and I think having the second Doctor and Zoe and Jamie there, and it just felt very Troughton based Under Siege, and then it flips that format on its head in the best way possible is
Yeah.
genius work. And yeah, the less said about that, the better for you to sort of experience it for yourself. And the Dying Breed, which I just think was Tom on fine form, and I think Tim Foley really gets the Fourth Doctor and Leela and K9. And I think what it does with K9, K9 being the sort of owner of the Fourth Doctor and Leela and sort of King K9,
Yeah.
it really plays in with sort of the humour of it, which I guess it fits quite well with sort of the Graham Williams era.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just like a classic Fourth Doctor story with how it ends and wraps up with how the Lupari are linked with humans and sort of the ending we get with Miriam Margolyes and the Fourth Doctor. That's a really cool little link there
Yeah.
as both their times are ending. That's all I'll say on that. And like you
Yeah. I
say,
wish they committed with the end title music there, but
yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah.
would
It's,
have been neat.
yeah, especially with the theme being the Howl theme.
Missed
But yeah, uh,
opportunity there,
missed
but that's
opportunity. Like you say, Krillitane Relic was again great story, and then 500 Ways to Leave Your Lover. I think is the weakest of the set,
hmm.
but I still think it's fun. I think it's McGann just having fun, and the monks are pretty neat within it. You know.
Yeah, they're well utilized. It's a different kind of story, but one that I mean, it's a rom-com, really,
Yeah.
is, and you do get a few good laughs from that, I feel.
Hmm.
Yeah. My number two, meanwhile, is
Oh,
Genesis of the Cybermen.
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I just had a really fun time with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my top like five, particularly two to five, are all very interchangeable. Like we could do this, we could record this tomorrow, and it might come out in a slightly different order. Like all these releases are very close to equally as strong. But this one, for whatever reason, right now, it took the second to top spot. I think it's wonderful how well built the world is within this. There's a lot of flawed science in there as well, but that's part of the charm of a Cherry Davis idea, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's got such an interesting twist on the cyber origin. I love that it's looking more into the society and the culture around that, whereas Spare Parts is much more about the individual tragedy, which is equally as valid and equally interesting as a take. But here you get that society slowly being wiped away, culture being forgotten, because you sort of just imagine Mondas as, oh, it's a bit like Earth, but obviously it went down a different route. Whereas here we're getting to see what was lost there. You have this prince who really just wants to be an actor. He doesn't want to lead his people. And it's wonderful paralleling that with his brother, who is creating the Cybermen, who is destroying all this, because ultimately, with the loss of emotions, what purpose does that play in a society? It doesn't. And so it's wonderful how that contrast is painted there within this story. And I think also it's got some horrific moments in there as well.
Mm.
It's such an interesting origin for the Cybermen, and the way that Nissa is worked into that as well, I think, is quite tragic. So yeah, it's got a lot going for it, and also it's a fairly quick listen. I feel
Yeah.
it's a romp. It carries you through the runtime really well, while also posing these interesting questions. So yeah, it's one that stopped to make me think, and that's why it's my number two spot. What about
Okay.
yeah? What about you? What's your number two?
Well, my number two was Faithful Friends.
What's your number one?
My number one,
Sorry, I've got a bit. I've lost the plot a bit there.
oh, maybe it needs to be converted.
Maybe I do. Maybe.
Well, I'm gonna keep on the same line as you.
Okay.
Genesis for Cybermen
Oh, really?
is my number one.
I've not heard of that one.
Really? I
Oh.
mean, there was a bit of a backlash about this one with obviously people going, hang on, we've already got this with spare parts.
Hmm.
And I think after Daleks, Genesis of Terror, people were a little bit scared by, hang on, we've done this before. And I think that this release just proved them completely wrong because I feel like this goes back to the Lost Stories mission statement, but it's not trying to slot in, it's not trying to, make both stories coexist like Earthshock and all
Yeah.
that. It's very much how Jerry Davis would have intended it. And I feel
That's
like,
what if, isn't it?
yeah, it's a nice little curio piece. I
Hmm.
think what you get here with Genesis for Cybermen is the sort of fluffy Jerry Davis sort of fantasy, almost sort of fairy tale esque with the world what is crafted here.
Hmm.
But you get David K. Barnes going, this is great. Let's put a bit of Eric Saywood grit to it. And that's what really you get to explore the horror of the Cybermen within it. I think that this story really highlights the dysfunctional nature of the season 19 TARDIS crew. There is some great one-liners between the Fifth Doctor and Adric,
It's
especially the
very much
calculation bit.
taken back to TV era, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
on Big Finish, they've softened them quite a bit,
Hmm.
and I think there's still that tension there at times, but it's not as snipey as it was on TV. They enjoy each other's company a bit, but can also have a bit of banter. The
Mm.
dialogue in this story feels ripped right out of the TV era, which is neat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the stars for this release for me is the music. It
Hmm.
is so wonderful. It's one of my favorite bits of music Big Finish have done.
Release the music, sweet Big.
Yeah,
We
honestly,
want to listen to this by itself. We don't want to hear actors talking over it.
yeah, I mean, you can hear it in the video trailer for this release, and it's just wonderfully 80s, and it's just fits the story perfectly. So yeah, for me, this is the number one release of the year so far.
Yeah. And for me, my number one, we've already talked about it. You probably guessed it because I said it was on the list somewhere and it's not turned up yet. It's
Hmm.
Hooklight 1 and 2. And we've already praised it quite a bit, but just a little bit more praise because it's amazing. It's amazing world building. It's amazing character work for all four of the main TARDIS team and more. The supporting cast within this story get to go on their own journeys, a lot of them, which is really neat. And some of them become really likable characters that you almost wish you got more of.
Hmm.
I do wish we had more of them. I do wish we got the further
Should have
effect
been 18
of
parts instead of
Captain
12.
Trucks. Yeah. It's yeah, like I said, it's just wonderful spending time in the world of Hooklight. And yeah, I have re-listened to it because I did enjoy that first listen so much. And if anything, I think it improved on second listen. I think I was picking up a lot more of um, earlier teasers that were just dropped there by Tim Foley uh, without too much fanfare, but then come into play in a big way later on.
Yeah. Good stuff. Tim Foley. Tim
Hmm.
Foley does no wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, he's on
Uh,
this list.
he's on this list a
Times,
couple of
isn't it?
times.
For a good
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. So pretty interesting selection, I'd say.
Hmm. I
I'd
think
say.
along similar lines for the most part.
Hmm.
I've yet to listen to Planet Kronoid personally, but I feel like once I do, it would have
Yeah, I
made
feel like it should.
from
Yeah, it will be on the
everything
top
you've
five.
said, everything I've heard about it. I listened to the first 15-minute drama tease back when that came out and really enjoyed it. But yeah, it's on my list.
Get
It's
on
on a
it.
long
Get on
list
it. It's good.
because
Some good stuff.
yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that I've been telling you to get on that you've not
True.
been to. So,
True.
but
True.
you
True.
are listening to Cass again at the moment. I'll
I
give you
am.
a
I
there.
am.
There we go. Uh, so yeah. those are our top five releases of the year so far. It's a nice little check-in, isn't it, to see
Yeah.
where we're at before we get to the big tier list come the end of the year.
Mm.
Which we are still doing for 2024. We will get there.
We
Sorry,
will. We'll
to
get it.
wait
We'll get it
there.
done.
Yeah, but for now, this is the top five of 2025 so far. 6 months in, five releases chosen. What are yours? Let us
Interesting.
sound off down below. We'd love to hear. Read.
We'll
See.
read, we'll see them, we'll listen to them and go, interesting. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe for plenty more Big Finish related content coming up in the near future, such as the tier list, as we've said, for 2024 and 2025 when we get
Yeah.
around to that. And of
Hopefully, we'll
course,
get around to it sooner than 6 months into 2026. We'll see.
fingers
Maybe
crossed.
previous, yeah, years ago.
Uh, but yeah, that has been 2025's top five so far. Done.
Ah, thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye
Goodbye.
bye.